afternoon ahead of Saturday's game. Must be a big one. Well, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I guess maybe just start with some of the. We talked with Chris the other day, and he mentioned that he's going to have some conversations with Dr. Bussum after his conversations with OB surgeon. Is there any update on kind of what that timeline looks like?
Same. He's in this moment not on season ending, so that is with the idea that he'll return before the end of the year. So that's in this moment.
I saw him walking around with no crutches. Is that surprising that he's able to?
No, not with the surgery that he had. So I think there's not a lot to do in the first week or two, as I was told. So he'll be around the facility and doing minor things, but I think it starts to really ramp up. Not ramp up, but he'll start the recovery in about a week or two's time.
And then I guess while we're on injuries, how close is Nick to? You said maybe a week or two away from contention. Is he? He's
close. This game likely unavailable, with the idea that he's involved for the Miami game.
And then how about Sergio, Yuya, and Gilberto?
Let's see. Gilberto will know more tomorrow. That is more promising than it was maybe a couple days ago, so hopefully available for Saturday. Yuya will not be available. Who's the other one? Sergio's available.
With Hell is Real, do you guys have a little more juice, in the week leading up to it and practices leading up to it?
There's more awareness of what the game means. I wouldn't call it more juice because I think our guys train hard every day with the right approach to each opponent. But everybody knows that this game means a little bit more to everybody involved. So they've approached it the same way they approach every week, and it's been good focus, good training intensity, and trying to get the details right in terms of how we approach the game to have a good day.
When you look back at the history of this rivalry, anything that kind of stands out as, maybe one or two big moments that kind of define this rivalry?
The fans typically help define what that feels like. I'll speak to our environment at TQL. Those games feel different, and it's fun to be a part of. I think both teams have been successful over the last few years, and that's made for, I think, entertaining games, a good level in the games being played with. I don't know whatever the record is. There's been success on both sides in different ways. So certain moments certainly that stick out in games, but it's just an exciting game to be a part of, I think, for both clubs, for the state and for the league. So I think each club is representing themselves in the league in a good way and trying to approach the game with the right mentality to entertain and to make your respective fan bases and clubs proud.
With your recent surge and now being at the top of the table, but also a lot of teams only separated by a few points, do you guys feel any extra pressure, or do you hear the extra noise saying, like, now you guys are in the lead for the Shield? And if so, how do you block that out?
We don't. We've pretty much approached every game to get to this point the same way. So I think everybody knows where we stand. Everybody has known where we stood every step of the way. So nothing's changed. We'll continue to approach each game and each opponent the same way and try to maintain our position, which is certainly in the moment a good one.
Good morning.
Good morning.
The first time this rivalry happened this year, it was kind of at the end of a 3-game match week. Obviously, I know that caused some frustration and whatnot. Now that you have a proper build-up, a full week going into this match, how does that change things? And kind of how do you feel about that?
They were stronger than us in the first matchup. The result obviously was favorable, being on the road and not performing particularly well and getting a point. But it just gives you more time to work on things against an opponent that is very fluid in their play and throws a lot of different things at you. So you can look at different things, work on different things, but you also need to. We spent a good amount of time too focusing on ways that we need to impact the game, with the ball, and not spend so much time on your opponent that you lose sight of our own play and our own ideas. So it's just afforded us more time than the first matchup.
Yeah, and it seems like both teams are going to be getting a player back, from the U.S. men's national team. Obviously, for you guys, Miles, they have Max over there. For you with Miles, kind of getting him back, obviously big lift there, but we've seen the back line's been pretty thin with injuries and whatnot. What does that do for you flexibility-wise, late in game with subs and whatnot? And then for them, kind of what does Max, add back to their group?
It's good to have Miles back. It was certainly a long absence, but you could see in a couple days he's excited to be back. We're excited to have him back. His teammates are. So it gives us more options, more depth. I mentioned Berto will be close. Teenage obviously was took a knock and was limited, but we're getting more players, which gives us more depth and more options to approach the game. So certainly happy to have Miles back. With Max on their side, they get a key piece back as well. Had certainly a big role in that Gold Cup and did well for himself. So I can't talk too much other than they get a piece back to help them as well.
Yeah, and then finally, just last week you said that one player might have called Evander a bridge in the locker room. How have you seen that play out? From your perspective, and was that something you were expecting, kind of when he first arrived, and just kind of what were your first impressions of him?
That was a little bit of the information that we got, that he's a good team player and that he connects well with his teammates and with staff members. So how it's going to look in a new environment, you don't know. You don't know how it's going to play out because this is different than where he's coming from. So what I've seen is just the way he interacts with his teammates. And, I'm not in the locker room. That's their space. But when he's talking to the staff members, the way he connects with different staff members in different ways, everything's authentic. Everything is respectful, but with, I think the idea to build relationships and to improve in different ways on and off the field. And so that's why that word has been used, and it's accurate. He's been, like I said, better than advertised.
Pat, good morning.
Morning.
Both you and Cincinnati and Columbus have been two of the stronger sides in Major League Soccer for the last 3 seasons. Both of the teams have gone through changes with the personnel. You've seen different combinations of players and groups feature in these kinds of games. But I was curious as to what you thought maybe the hallmark of what makes Columbus a good side is and what they've done well over that time that stayed consistent.
I think the way they can handle pressure, they're for me, one of the top, if not the best in the league at being able to play under pressure, be able to make adjustments and move players around in different ways to create advantages to attack. So, even if you have good pressing ideas and a good defensive structure, they can still play through you if you don't, get the press right. If you don't make them uncomfortable at the right time and step as a group. If you're a piece off, they'll find it. They'll find that space, that weakness. So I think that's what has made them very successful. And a lot of times we talk about the on-the-ball stuff, but I think their structure also allows them to defend quickly, whether it's to go to the ball or to get organized. So I think they do that very well also.
Is there something this year they've done that's maybe different that you find successful that you might have to approach in a new way?
There's always tweaks. You always have to be ready for tweaks. It doesn't look the same. For 90 minutes, it doesn't look the same from game to game. They, I think, understand their next opponent and how to make adjustments. So I think just being ready for different things is the important part.
Daniel Gazdak is a player who joined them I think right around the same time you guys played them last. You have a familiarity with, but he's had maybe not the easiest time acclimating to his new group, but he's still a really quality player. When you're playing against a team with a player like that who has quality but maybe hasn't shown it on the score sheet, how do you prepare for a player like that who might pop out in different ways?
You take away the goal production and look at the play or the assists, he could have a lot more. I think that's pretty clear because he puts himself into good spots. I think he fits their team well, moves with the game well. So the conversation could look different based on if there were more goals and assists because, I've had the pleasure working with Daniel. He's a very, very strong player and a strong character. So I think that's why you see him continuing to put himself in good spots is because he's not concerned about just the goals and assists. He wants to help his team. That's his mentality. So a very strong player, and that's how I look at it. Don't just focus on goals and assists. Look at how the player fits into a group. Look at the positions he's in to make an impact, and certainly he gets into dangerous spots and helps them in a lot of ways attack the goal, but also defend the ball.
Going back to your center back position, Lucas Engel, we've seen him there a few times now. Is that a role you feel like you kind of like? I guess what are you seeing from him in that spot, and how do you factor him in, knowing, maybe you guys like Luka on that left wing back sometimes, depending on matchups, or how do you balance?
Lucas is there because we think he can help us there. He can help us as a wing back. He can help us as a left center back. You look at relationships in the team dynamic and where we're at in the moment. So Lucas has played a role a little bit deeper, with Luka on the left side. So we'll continue to assess that. But, yeah, we wouldn't use Lucas there and Luka as the left wing back if we didn't think that was a good pairing. So that's kind of, the current state of the team and some of the center back absences that have allowed us to look at that.
And then you guys added a new player. I know he won't be obviously able to join you guys until the window opens, or be officially added. What are you expecting from Ender, and what do you feel like he can add to your group?
He's got speed. He's certainly spent more of his time as an attacking piece higher up the field. We have an idea of where we think he can fit within the group. I won't get into the specifics of that in the moment, but a young player, relatively inexperienced. So, it's our job to help him get acclimated like everybody to a new group, new surroundings, and see how he can step in and play a role with this team. So, but a dynamic player with, I think, a skill set that allows you to stretch the field, attack in different ways, 1v1, but, how does he help us on the defensive side of the ball will be how we, implement him in the group and give him ideas as to how we defend the ball.
Do you have an idea when he might arrive?
Yeah, I don't want to get too give you a date because that changes too much with the uncertainty around the paperwork and then actually getting here. So we're hoping in the next week or two.
We spoke with Chris the other day, and he mentioned that Ender's a winger by trade. I guess he's played wing back a dozen or so times, but that's a position they feel like you can move him back into from winger to wing back. You've had a lot of success in transitioning guys and putting guys into those positions who maybe into a wing back specifically that maybe haven't played there a ton. What has been a key to success, maybe with a personality type or something you've seen that makes you confident that you can take a guy who's a winger or a different position and turn them into a wing back?
When we look at players in the recruitment process, it's how do we think this player can fit into our team and our structure. So I don't concern myself too much with if they're playing as a winger in their current team. It's how do they fit into our team based on the skill set that we see with and without the ball. And if we think that's somebody that can fit into our team and our structure, we'll put aside, where they're currently playing with their current team and try to understand how we think they can be an asset for us with how we play.
Chris also mentioned that in the conversations with Ender, he was very encouraged by the conversations about Winender said things he need to improve were on the defensive side, which is, I guess, unique in the way Chris presented it. Is that exciting as a coach to get a player who is mindful of both sides of the ball rather than just specifically the goal scoring part, which can be the fun part, I guess, sometimes?
Yeah, look, when you're going through this process and you're talking to players and they're hearing from us, sometimes, you know, you hear what you want to hear, but what does it actually look like? And so that's the key, is when they're in this environment, any new player, getting them to understand what's required positionally and within how we play. You try to paint that picture before they actually get there, or get here. So it's our job to try to bring out the best in players on both sides of the ball. So that's how the game's played now. You don't get the luxuries of just being able to attack or just having to defend. It's too fluid in how the game is played now and how we want the game to look. So you're doing both things in every position all the time. Does it always look like that? Of course not, you know, or else we'd look closer to perfect all the time, and that's certainly not the case. So you got to be able to attack and you got to be able to defend, and the guys that are coming in know that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.